Hi, Melanie Muenchinger here, illustrator for Gina K Designs. Today I have a new project for you with one of my recently released sets, Arranged with Love. So this has always been a great seller for me, this frame set with these beautiful flowers that are creating a floral bouquet along with greetings that will work year round, but we recently released it in clear. So I wanted to show a new project with you today. I'm going to be also revisiting the other sets that we've recently released in clear, so look for those videos in the coming weeks and make sure that you subscribe. Today's project, I'm just doing a watercolor here using a watercolor brush and some clean color markers, tipping it here in the light a little bit so that you can see instead of using a traditional black or brown, I have it embossed with just some powder and using a heat tool. We've got this really beautiful gold metallic sheen on the outline, and that always helps a little bit with watercoloring, keeping the water and the color where you want it. But I really don't stress about when it goes outside the lines. That's just part of watercoloring. I think it shows that it's handmade. And if you've got some perfectionism in you, I recommend a watercolor a day. That's my prescription for really letting go of those expectations and just allowing it to be what it is. Really minimal supplies for today's project. We're going to be using just the one set, the Arranged with Love from Gina K Designs, and I've got a large block that I am putting this frame stamp on. You could also use a Cuttlebug plate, or I know a lot of people like to just stamp with it face up and then put the paper down on it. You're going to need a small block for the greeting. Just the one ink pad today. I'm using the Versamark Watermark stamping pad. This is what you're going to want to use when you're doing any kind of embossing. Really versatile though, because it also watermarks and is fun with chalks and things. I've just got some fine gold embossing powder and a heat tool. This one's from Marvy. Had it forever. I've got a water brush, but you could also use just a regular watercolor brush and a cup of water. This is really convenient though because it just keeps the water inside. Squeeze it when you need to, and then I just keep a little pack of Post-it notes handy. This is good for masking, but also if you want to just brush off the color that you have, if you're switching from maybe, let's say, a blue to a yellow. Got some adhesive, and I've got the Gina K Pure Luxury tomato soup for my card base, and then just a piece of watercolor paper cut to 4 by 5 1/4 inches, and I will post these measurements below. The markers that we're using today, these are the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. I've got these from the set of 60. We're only using 6 markers for today's project, so pretty basic primary colors, but you can see when they're blended together how many shades that gives you. So we have got the dark oatmeal for those flower centers. I'm using the scarlet red, the bright yellow. You see how it looks orange. This is going to really turn from orange to yellow. You can see on the top of the cap, this is full strength, but when you water it down, you've got a nice bright primary yellow there. So that's a really versatile marker. This one, my little cap fell off of it, but I've got the mid green. That's for the leaves, obviously. I've got this ochre. This is going to brush just some real nice depth, kind of a dark mustard or olivey tone into those leaves. And then finally, I've got this cobalt blue. So I'm going to show you, if you want to do a faster card and also you want to just keep it to an autumnal palette, kind of a monochromatic palette, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to ask you at the end, A or B, if you like it better with or without the blue. But I really love doing a contrasting color. It just really makes your watercoloring pop on these flowers. So let's begin by embossing the frame. And I always like to put just a big piece of scratch paper underneath so that I can funnel that powder back in. I've got my fan turned off so that I'm not going to make a big mess. So it's kind of hard to see this ink. You want to make sure you get all over. And I always tip it to the light, and you'll be able to see, even though the ink is invisible, where it's wet and where it's dry. But just make sure that you're really getting all those corners. That's always the culprit. If I miss something, it's just one tiny little quarter because I've been focusing on the detail in the middle. Okay, that looks good. Now I've got the top of that stamp just lined up with that line on the block. So all I'm going to do, instead of measuring, I'm just going to put this right in about the middle of my mat and just drop it down when it looks centered. So I can refer to the lines on the block and the lines of the edge of the cardstock to know that that is going to look nice and centered, and those lines around the frame are going to be running parallel to the edges of my mat. So I'm going to gently pull it away. And then I'm going to put my powder on and then do the greeting after the powder, just because I do not want to get that going wonky. So the lines on that little floral card in the middle are going to help me line it up. And you might find it easier to trim this down after you've done the embossing, but I just wanted to have it ready so I didn't have to bring my cutter over. I'm just going to tap this just a little bit. But the lines on the card are going to show me where I want to put that greeting. So I'm going to stamp on this one. I'm going to do sending prayers, and I'm going to get the powder cleaned up in just a second. So I'm getting this line running parallel with the top of that card. Sending prayers. And then I'm just going to carefully put the powder on the greeting. So really this one set, it can get you through pretty much any holiday you need throughout the year, and then just changing up the color palette on these different flowers allows you to send it for virtually any occasion. Put just a little bit more there on the corner. Okay, I'm going to set this aside, put my powder back. And we're ready to emboss this. Okay. Got my mat. Got just a few little stray flecks there at the top. Okay. So I'm going to just hold this down with my fingernail. You want to keep it a couple inches out so that you're not going to scorch the paper. And you just want to keep moving it around. And the powder will go from looking flat to very shiny. You'll just see it melt in an instant. When you have that area done, then you move on to another section. And it is going to curl up. It's going to curl up further when you add that water, when you do your watercoloring. But you can hit the back of it with your heat tool. And then you'll also be tacking this down with your adhesive, and that'll further flatten it out. Okay, I'm going to turn it now so that I can get this other corner because it's very hot. Make sure this is in the frame so you can see it. It's just this last corner to go. And for those of you who don't know, this is a coordinating set for my A Year of Flowers set. So I masked different flowers together within this frame to give you a year-round bouquet. So I really like just using this without any coloring when I want just a quick card on the go, just to send it out. Hang on, I see one part that I want to make sure doesn't look quite melted there in the corner. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's do our coloring now. So I want to start, I always like to start with the biggest area just so that I feel like I'm getting a lot done. So I know this looks orange, but I'm going to swirl this into where I want the darkest areas of my rose to be. And then I'm going to dilute it with the water, and you're going to see this turn yellow. And then we're going to go back and we're going to add the marker in again, full strength, in the areas that I want to be dark. So you see, I just scribbled that in there, but it's all filling in and becoming pretty even. The little lines in my illustration are going to show you where you want the darkest areas to be. So in the inside of the petals, wherever you see these little contour lines under the petals. Now you can go back on when this is still wet and brush this in. I'm going to let it dry a little bit though, and you can go over it with your heat tool to dry an area if you need to. So let's go ahead and we'll move on to this next rose. Putting it in just in those same areas, under the petals, and on the bottom of the rose, and I'll go ahead and put some over here too. under this card is going to be casting a shadow, so you're going to put a little more orange in that area, and then just a little bit where they're all folded right there, where this is opening up right there. All right, so let's just swirl this around. And I love the yellow and orange antique roses that you see in the grocery stores at this time of year. Just so, so pretty. Okay, now that looks nice, but you don't want to stop there. So that's why I grabbed that Scarlet red, and you're going to add those to the very darkest area of these roses. So I'm just brushing in just a tiny bit more around those edges to deepen some of those areas where it blended out. Okay, so you could stop there, but look at how pretty this is going to be when you add just a little bit of this Scarlet in a couple key places. Let me put this over here to show you where we're going so you can refer to this. I can refer to it too. And then you take your water brush and just blend that. See what a difference that makes? So they're all going to turn out different, and I could spend more time on each of these, but because I'm doing the video, I just want to go a little faster so you can spend a little more time on your card. Put a little in here. And it's going to blend the best if you stay with one area rather than putting it all down and then moving back to this rose. It will still blend because you're using the watercolor paper. So see, this one looks like more of an orange rose, and that's fine. Not all the roses have to match. This can just look like a different variety here if you want to go a little bit darker on some of the flowers than the others. And then I'm just going to put a little in this last one, and then we'll move on to our daylilies. So you need to go bold. Remember to choose some darker shades when you're doing these watercolors, because it can go pretty blah if it's too blended. You really need something to pop out. All right, now I'm going to do just a little bit inside this frilly flower. And I don't know what this one was when I drew it. Kind of looked like a pansy. Maybe a periwinkle, I don't really know. Impatient, I don't know. So I didn't pull it all the way out to the edge because I want the edge of the flower to be a little bit lighter than the red. And then just to make that pop a little bit more, I'm going to just scribble in the dark red again. And if you want, in that assortment, I have some deeper shades of red, so you could add a second red color if you want to, but I was trying to keep it simple. So I'm going to color the whole lily red here because I want these to be darker than the flower that I just colored. And then I'm going to use some of that brown for the center and the little stamens or anthers of both. And the embossing kind of resists it, so where these areas are a little bit more detailed, you have to kind of go over it a couple times to really get it filled in. Now I'm going to take this brown and I'm going to swirl just a little bit here into the center, and I'm going to dot it. And then I'm just going to paint, trace a couple of those little anthers. You could put a little bit under here too, just to shade that if you want. Okay, now let's do the leaves. So I'm just going to put just a little bit of the green here under each of the petals on that rose, and then I put in just a little bit of this kind of olive or mustard brown, and these are going to make the rose leaves stand out a little bit from these other kind of smooth leaves that don't have the veins. I meant to grab my water brush there. So we're going to pull out Get all the red off of this. This is what I wanted my sticky notes for. And it's okay though if you pull in just a little bit of color from those red flowers. If you ever look closely at a rose's leaves, you'll notice they have little bits of red in them anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to brush a little bit in here and under here. And then just fill that in. And I'll go back and add more color where I want it to be darker. But just getting it all covered here for the sake of the video. So I'm going to fill in these stems with the mid-green. So here, and up here, and a stem right there. Okay, and then finally just finish up. Just add a little bit more, and this really makes it look like fall. So for more of a springy card, I would choose one of the kind of more citrusy, lemony greens than this ochre. This really gives it kind of a sense of time and place that it's fall, putting in that kind of mustard olive color. So I want to move on to my background now. Before I do that though, I'm also just going to use this like a marker, and I'm going to take the red. Hang on, there's one I didn't cap. There we go. I'll figure it out in a second. Okay, so I'm just going to trace so that the point of this, you can see it's just like a hair. So you can do really fine detail work. So I always want the edge of this card to pop so that your eye will really go to that greeting. I went a little bit outside the line there, but that's okay. All right, so here it is. You can see the difference between one that has no background. Put this on the paper so you can see. So that looks pretty by itself, but I'm really glad that I pressed on. So let's go on and do this blue. So it just takes a little bit of this pretty turquoise color, and you might choose actually to wet down the whole area first. So you're just going to pull this color down, and tracing the top of that is going to keep it inside. If you have a really wet area, see how that flower is coming out a little bit, but I actually kind of like those colors blending together. Now I've got blue now on the tip of my water brush, so I can pull that over here. So let me just pull that down in this section. So I'll get these wet. And if you're going to trace an area to add that color in, I would just do it on the underside of something, because that's going to be the darkest. So wherever you're laying down the full strength marker, that'll be the heaviest color, and then it's going to fade out. So I'll just pull that a little bit, and we're halfway done. So I'm going to put just a little bit in here, and you can go darker towards the bottom. Typically in your arrangement, it's going to get lighter as you go to the top. So you can lay down a little bit more color in the bottom of your arrangement if you want. And if you feel like you have too hard of a line there, just blend that out with the marker. That makes the whole area darker. And then we'll do this top corner. And again, if you want yours more blended, then just spend a little more time. I'm just, for the sake of the video, getting it done. But this is not a long video, and we're almost finished. Very little stamping here. I just wanted to make it easy and use some of my favorite flowers from that A Year of Flowers set. So if you like these images, this lily or this flower, whatever it's called, and then those roses, the rose is probably my favorite of all time out of my flower stamps. Then you can get the Year of Flowers set, and that's really nice for being able to layer just to pop up single blossoms over this frame. But it's really a standalone set, so it's very versatile and just great for different techniques. And I use this in my Fabulous Stamp Frames book. I have several projects using this particular set. So this is all wet now. So I'm just going to go in and just scribble that and make all this darker. But just see how beautiful that yellow and orange looks with this turquoise blue. Just put a little bit in here. And that's it. All right, so now all we have to do is just adhere it to our card. So just want to go all over, really get all the edges of this since it wants to crinkle up a little bit. But again, I love that texture that the watercolor paper provides. You can see that it's done by hand. And you're done. I hope you enjoyed this project today and that you pick up the Arrange with Love stamp set if you don't already have it. It's just going to be one of your go-to sets in your stamp collection. Please visit my blog, Hands and Heart, Head and Heart, for more ideas and inspiration using all of my stamp sets, and visit us at Stamp TV and Gina K Designs. Thank you for watching today. God bless.